Live, come on, little button. Looks like we're live now. Hello, folks. Hello, Mr. Lowry. Hello, Mr. Crockett.
Good afternoon again. Hello, Colonel Crockett. It's a good day in Bossier, right?
Hello to both of you guys. This was a great day.
Yeah, all right. So, folks, we know that this is kind of unusual. We were on last night. We're doing a Wednesday night kind of special edition. We're going to be on tomorrow night on the Louisiana Watch side, but we've had a ruling from the Second Circuit, so we're going to get into that real quick. We're going to go ahead and do the countdown and break. Y'all go ahead and make sure and share and tag and let your friends know. We're going to go through the ruling and kind of explain that and maybe a little bit of the plan going forward and all that. We'll do commentary and all that sort of thing. But anyway, guys, I'm going to hit the button. We're going to go to countdown and break. We'll be back in about 3 minutes or so. Everybody tag some friends. Here we go.
Knew a lot of the back office on the politicians that they think walk on water, they would be shocked.
You know, there's an old wound from a knife in my back that just is giving me heck lately, and it's just really irritating, so I have to kind of wiggle around a little bit.
And I titled it A Shot Across the Bow of the Good Old Boys.
Just, they feel helpless, they don't feel heard, they have nowhere to turn.
Some Republicans as well believe that government has the answers. And let me tell y'all something. I don't know anything government does well. Nothing.
Aren't there laws that say that you have public meetings so that the public can have accountability of their elected officials?
As a member of the media, I'm very concerned about what I've just heard.
Well, I'm not thinking Star Wars at all. I'm thinking zombie apocalypse.
Oh, folks coming from the border down there?
Yeah, it's going to border. It's actually going to Mexico, the buses.
Doesn't mean they interpret it the same way that I do. For instance, the Second Amendment. I take it very literally. That's been interpreted different ways in the court system all the way up to SCOTUS. We're still right now combined on both pages and YouTube at 264 people watching. That is amazing, folks. Through conscious, shocking actions, which in turn would enrich sitting city council members Scott Irwin and David Montgomery Jr. In theory, it's an every week thing. We got to double check and make sure it's like a miracle any of this actually works.
This live broadcast is brought to you by the Outdoor News, fishing and outdoors for our area. Acadiana Mortgage, over 25 years in the mortgage business. Pelican Training and Consulting. Reach out to Julie Ferris. Smarter Geek, making technology easier. And folks sharing information and watching out. Now, grab your popcorn and a drink. Here we go.
And I closed it out for some reason.
Well, that's okay. We'll figure it out as we go. Folks, we're, as usual, flying by the seat of our pants. We have no notes. We do have the ruling from the Second Circuit, and we may as well dive right into that. Mr. Lowry, you can take over the pilot's chair for a minute.
Just a minute. I think it's going to take more than a minute.
I'm gonna have to navigate and let you pilot, and the colonel's got actual flight experience, so he'll try to keep us from crashing and burning.
But I think he was navigating. Wasn't that your job, Colonel? Wasn't you a navigator?
I was a navigator, but I like to keep people from running into mountains.
Well, it's always a good thing. No crashing and burning.
Then I'll pilot. I'm the only one without a set of glasses here, so I'll pilot, and y'all help navigate.
That's a good safety point. All right.
So Second Circuit, we've been waiting on it. We knew it was coming, and Colonel and I even warned some people, that are holier than thou, that, this day's going to come. We went to the oral arguments in the Second Circuit. We came out and we held the opinion that there was going to be a strong ruling. I think this ruling even exceeded our expectations. Would you agree, Colonel?
Absolutely. I thought that they blew it away, and I think they only considered one of the filings from the defense, so the rest of them they just blew past. So they violently agreed with the 26 JDC ruling.
Yeah. So just what I think it was even more than what you said, that they just blew right past it. I mean, I think they considered the other arguments as being like just ridiculous. I think it was more than that.
Absolutely. Uh,
Oh yes,
I was being kind.
they use plenty of descriptive words in this ruling, and we'll get to all that in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so uh with this ruling and the one thing that's got everybody talking, and I will tell y'all that I have gotten calls from across the state from different people about it, and the one big thing is the use of one single word, and it's not a word that hasn't been spoken in the council chambers of Bossier before. Our mutual friend Wes Marriott uttered those words at some point.
Yeah, they have been warned. I've got that queued up, so give me just a few minutes or a minute or so, and I'll actually queue up that particular word. And so let me offer the disclaimer: we only play attorneys on Facebook and social media, and so we are giving our opinion based on this ruling and the facts at hand. So there's the disclaimer for all you sue happy folks with other people's money and tax dollars. All right. Let me switch screens here. So let me go to click that button. Give me just a second. I'll pull it up. And through the magic of the interwebs, let me do that and do that. Okay, everybody should be able to see it. So this was a footnote on page 8. Colonel, do you want to kind of take it from here, or shall I utter the word first? Or Duke, shall you do it?
Go ahead, Colonel.
Well, basically, the word that Duke was talking about a second ago was malfeasance, and we're not going to use our words. We're going to use the words of the court because that's what's important here. Key to this whole issue of malfeasance is that in none of our none of Cassie Mae Rogers' filings did it ever mention malfeasance in office by the city council, but it did pop up in the ruling. So let's go to Rex. You've got it up there.
Yeah, I'll read it off. So it's this is a footnote on page 8 of the PDF, which we did post on Bossier Term Limits, shared it out on Bossier Watch as well. But it says defendant's refusal to call an election may be construed as malfeasance in office. Louisiana Revised Statute 14:134 provides malfeasance in office is committed when any public officer or public employee shall 1. Intentionally refuse or fail to perform any duty lawfully required of him as such officer or employee, or they skipped to number 3, knowingly permit any other public officer or public employee under his authority to intentionally refuse or fail to perform any duty lawfully required of him, or to perform any such duty in a lawful manner. That's the words of a 3-judge Court of Appeals panel, correct, fellas?
Yeah, it wasn't the opinion of just one of the 3 judges. It wasn't an opinion of just 2 of the 3 judges. It was the opinion of all 3 of the judges. And again, like Colonel said, malfeasance was never discussed. They put this in there. They saw it for what it was. And just like we said a while ago, this isn't the first time that malfeasance has been raised. That it was uttered and told, like you said, warned. The words were spoken on the record at a council meeting, and they were told that what they were doing was malfeasance. And now here, months later, and they brought this on themselves. You've got 3 judges are basically laying it out here.
Well, and I'll just say this too. When Judge Parker Self issued his ruling from the 26 JDC, he said they were, quote, somewhat disingenuous, which is basically saying pretty much lying. So here's my take on this. This has gone from the city's perspective, the recalcitrant 5, as Danny, the lawyer, called them. This has gone from bad to worse for them. I mean, How much worse do they want it to get?
Well, I'm
Well, I
no
think
lawyer. I'm no lawyer, and Ryan Haygood put up a comment and says malfeasance equals malice. They no longer have qualified immunity. Boy, I hope that's true because I can tell you, my wheels are about to run off the track thinking about a lot of things here, in which we're going to get into some of those because, you know, for the electors of Bossier City, there's some of you have some decisions and some actions to take, and we'll get to that. Go ahead, Colonel.
well, I think the main thing that let's capture a little bit of where we are right now. First of all, in order to keep from uh, being held in contempt, they had to file a motion for suspensive appeal for the appeals process. That motion for suspensive appeal is over now. So they have a limited amount of time for the city council to act. So I think that not only do they have the fact that that these judges have said that there may be malfeasance in office, not only do they have that, but they also have to deal with the contempt issue.
So go
There
ahead,
and
Duke.
there and to the point, to break that down in common people terms, Colonel, that order of the district court judge ordering them to call the election, they have that order. It's right now. They have an obligation to do it, and if they in any way refuse to do it, they're going to be held in contempt of court.
I agree, and I think that Duke, that kind of segues right into what you're saying about what the people in Bossier City have to ask themselves right now. Do you want your city council held in contempt? And then, of course, later on, we'll get into the whole issue of the malfeasance.
Yeah. All right. So, um, do y'all want to go ahead and we'll kind of maybe go through the ruling? I'll go ahead and bring it up on the screen and we can just kind of roll through and y'all. I'm not going to read the whole ruling. We've got the whole thing posted, but we can kind of hit the highlights and maybe y'all can point out some things that we may want to, put out here and show everybody.
Absolutely, I think that has a lot of value because I think it shows the fact that these judges were pretty resolute in their decision.
All right. So let me get this pulled up on the screen here. And I realize some people are coming on mobile. I'm going to make this as big as we can, but you may not be able to see it, but that's okay. Again, we've got the whole thing posted and in printable version on Bossier Term Limits and shared out on Bossier Watch. All right, so this was appealed from the 26th JDC, blah, 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 trial court from Parker Self, the judge. This is Cassie Mae Rogers versus the city of Bossier. Appellates were David Montgomery, Bubba Don Williams, Jeff Darby, Jeff Free, and Vince Maggio. And then counsel for the defendants and appellees were the City of Bossier, Chris Smith, and Brian Hammond. So let's kind of break that down for a second, maybe, Colonel. So we've got two councilmen that weren't defendants in this, or kind of sort of were they? What kind of explain that for a minute?
Well, what happened when actually Cassie Mae Rogers filed against the city? At first, we did not name each of the city councilmen, but then later on, the city actually joined in our lawsuit. The mayor and two councilmen joined in our effort, the Bossier Term Limits Coalition and Cassie Mae Rogers, to file against the city to file for writ of mandamus. So two of the city councilmen and the mayor keep this issue on the table for us. But we ended up naming the 5 city councilmen that are voting no against adding term limits to the ballot. So that's what's that kind of gets us almost through page 2 here at the bottom where it lists David Montgomery. It lists all of the city councilmen as defendants, but the other 2 councilmen joined us.
Right. All right. So I'm going to skip ahead to kind of the main context, and I'm just going to kind of scan down this. Tell me to stop at any point, Duke or Colonel, if you see something or whatever. But basically, go ahead, Duke.
I'm almost of the opinion that you just jump all the way to the conclusion and then let's
Right.
get to the rest of it because basically they're just they're in every point that they're just confirming what the district court judge's opinion was.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'll just real quickly scan through this. So the first few pages are going through the history, discussing the ruling. Let me back up the petitions when they were submitted. Cassie May, filing the petition for writ of mandamus, etc., so on and so forth. I mean, it's really just rehashing what the trial court actions were and what happened there. Now, they do list some interesting cases here, and we won't get into the weeds about all this as they're going through and explaining the writ of mandamus and how it can be used and all that. So there is some interesting references to cases there for folks to take a look at. I'm just trying to, Duke, before I get to the end of it, I just wanted to scan through here and make sure there weren't any really good parts that we wanted to highlight.
Rex, what I would do is I would go, I think there is a salient point on page 5. If you get to page 5, and I'll read it if you go to the middle of it.
All right, let me back up here. So I'm on the page number 5 at the bottom of the pages. Technically, it's
All right,
page
so
7 of the PDF.
Where it's discussing right there, a writ of
Yeah.
mandamus, go down to the second half of that paragraph. I think it's important to read there where it says that a ministerial duty is a duty in which no element of discretion is left to the public officer. It's a simple, definite duty arising under conditions admitted or proved to exist and imposed by law. And there's a case with that. And then when you get to the next, scan down just a little bit more, the next paragraph, it says a mandamus is an extraordinary remedy to be applied where the law provides no relief by ordinary means or where the delay involved obtaining ordinary relief may cause an injustice. And that's the allegation that we would make, and we've made all along, is by delaying putting this on the ballot, that there is an injustice, and we believe it's caused harm to the public.
Right.
and this was no accident. This was a choice. It was a choice that every one of those guys made. It wasn't out of ignorance. They knew full well. And I think that the judges correctly assessed in, opining an opinion that it may be malfeasance. I will go a step further. And say my personal belief that they conspired on all of it. I think they even conspired to put this charter commission together and to try to thwart. And you can look at some of the comments from the charter commission members, one Juliana Parks, one Vicki Whitman, and it's hard to not come to the conclusion that the whole thing was meant to defeat the people's petition. I mean, that's my opinion.
Right. So I want to pull up. I'm on page 8, which is where they mention the malfeasance, and where they footnoted that is interesting. It says the trial court stated when a duly certified proposition is proposed by the electors, which is not invalid, the wording of the charter itself seems to impose a mandatory duty on the council by utilizing the word shall. And as we all remember, I've said over and over, words matter, right, Richard Ray? So the circuit court says we agree. Notwithstanding the charter's mandate to call an election, quote, if any amendment is proposed by a petition of electors, the city council twice refused to present the proposal to the voters. And that's where they footnote the defendant's refusal to call an election may be construed as malfeasance in office. That is strong.
Yeah, I talked to a couple of attorneys that told me that it's kind of almost unheard of for them to put something like that in there so strongly, and So a lot of people, they may be asking, they say, well, where do we go from here on this? And, Wes is already on top of it. Um, you know, I don't think that there's any investigation from law enforcement except for, regarding the malfeasance. I think it's pretty straightforward. You read the statute, we see what happened. I think it's clear as day. Now, conspiracy, did they all conspire? I don't know. My opinion, my gut, I think that the tea leaves are there that they did. Proving
Yeah.
it and getting witnesses, I think there should be an investigation of that. I do. That somebody could investigate.
Well, and
But
we've
Well,
already.
Duke, I'd like to take that just a little bit further. When we talked to the attorney that represented Cassie Mae Rogers today, he listened to the city council meetings where they took advice from the city attorney, and the city attorney basically told him that the petition was not flawed, and that he basically told them that they should put it on the ballot, but they didn't do it. And
Yeah, I mean
so
he
that's
did
for
that in an open public meeting. There's zero debate about that. Look, and I've said over and over, innocent until proven guilty and all that sort of thing. But in this case, it is beyond proof. We've had proof from the 26th JDC, Judge Parker self. Now we've had proof from the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. You can very easily go back and listen to their words. Don't take what we've said on this show. Don't take what we've said in news reports and all that. Just go back and look at the meetings for yourself, and the proof, the absolute proof, is there. So I'm not trying to do a guilty, before being proven. The proof's all there. There's zero doubt in my
well, and
mind.
I think one of the things that we have heard, and our attorney reiterated today, was that from the very get-go, like Duke has said, that the whole intent of the city council throughout this process has been to obfuscate the whole issue about what term limits the people need and what they want. And that's why they had the charter commission. They're just confusing the issue and it makes harder for the public to keep up with what the issues are. But anyway, Duke, you did a good job covering that earlier. But we've got a job to do, and that's what everybody needs to ask themselves: is how are they going to get involved with this, and how do we get the council to start following the straight path?
All
well,
right.
go ahead.
Well, I was going to go ahead and let me switch us back over to the screen share mode. I wanted to bring up the last paragraph there, Duke, and then
Yeah.
take the mic. The Second Circuit Court's appeals court said, we find the trial court did not err in granting the writ of mandamus and ordering the Bossier City Council to call an election as mandated by its charter. Accordingly, we affirm the judgment of the trial court. And I would point out one other thing in the footnote here. They're talking about the city had made the ridiculous argument that, well, they can't put this, on the ballot because it might be unconstitutional with the retroactivity. And the Second Circuit Court called that out and said, well, wait a minute, that would, that decision can't be made till it's on the ballot and the voters decide. And then you would have, the basis to file a suit, or maybe the other city councilman would or something.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what everybody said all along. But, those asshats, look, they knew what they were doing. It was no secret of what they were doing. So we've got this in our hands, and some people describe this as a golden hammer. And I think it's right. And it's, what do we do with that golden hammer that we've been given by the Second Circuit Court? Well, I think we use it, because they certainly have used the hammer of government against the public, not once, but multiple times, and in a lot of other circumstances. I mean, they've had the power of government to use against the people for a long time. The judicial system just gave us some power, and we need to use it. How do you use it? I think, and again, Wes has been saying some of that in the comments, and he's right. We have to have. I don't think anybody's going to start an investigation to prove malfeasance, but how that works is either your district attorney impanels a grand jury and brings charges against them for malfeasance. But in this case, I'm going to go out a step further. I'm going to go on and say the Bossier Parish District Attorney, he's not going to do that. Even if he won't do it, but let me give you another reason he's not going to do it. He's got an assistant ADA that's been the attorney down here in the middle of all of this.
Right.
So he's going to have to recuse himself. And when he recuses himself, it needs to go to the state attorney general. The state attorney general needs to take this case up, impanel a grand jury, and charge them all. And then the citizens of Bossier, you're going to have the choice in a Vince Maggio and a Jeff Free or Darby. If you reelect these guys for anything, guess what? You're potentially electing a felon. And I hope y'all are listening to me there, councilman. I hope you're hearing me loud and clear. We were given a golden hammer. You chose to use the hammer of government against us. We're going to force that golden hammer we've been given against you. The only hope that you have is that you call a meeting immediately and you throw in the towel and you apologize to the public. That's probably the only way you have an out here. You can go try to appeal to the Louisiana Supreme Court. You're going to get rebuffed. Your attorney's telling you that, but you do what you want to do. You choose your path now.
Yeah, like I said earlier, going from case to case, I mean, this is getting worse by the minute for them, worse by the ruling. So they better do something.
Rex,
Go ahead, Colonel.
Point well made. Rex, do you want to take a second here to review RS 14134 and show what the implications are? Because I think that'll bring a little bit more clarity to the public. And then that's where the public, everybody that's listening to Bossier Watch, I mean, we're getting a lot of good comments right now, but this needs to be shared out. I'm going to say this a couple of times during this. We need to get wide viewership on this whole issue. We're going to while Rex is bringing that up, Rex, I'll let you go through it, but we need to get a lot of people to share this out throughout the community because this is pretty important what we're going through right now.
Yeah, so this is the full statute here, RS Louisiana Revised Statute 14:134, and it goes through the whole gauntlet. Of course, the circuit court referenced subpart A, number 1 and number 3, but this gives you the rest of the malfeasance in office. And I mean, I would point out willfully and knowingly subject any person to the deprivation of any right, privilege, or immunity secured or protected by the U.S. Constitution and laws. Of course, there's no serious bodily injury or death results, but I would say certainly they're trampling on the Constitution. And I say that as a Facebook attorney, not a real attorney. But it's interesting to note that if my memory serves me correctly, malfeasance is a felony. And you alluded to that or mentioned that just a few minutes ago, Duke.
Yeah, that's right. And again, Wes is hitting on all cylinders. He's pointing out another thing. He said, look, the Charter Commission, they refused to meet until Preston resigned. And it was over the term limit stuff, multiple felony acts, conspiracy and malfeasance. I mean, I think all of this is intertwined. I'm not so confident that should a grand jury be impaneled and the case regarding what they did with the Charter Commission, I'm not convinced that you might not have this March election with these all this Charter Commission stuff get wound up in all of this. And, I think it's clear cut on malfeasance, the conspiracy, it could get drawn into it.
Yeah. And I'd just like to point out they chose their path.
Absolutely. Yeah. Rex, we need to make sure that we cover the part there under section C, whoever commits a crime of malfeasance in office, where it's saying there that
Yes.
shall be imprisoned for not more than 10 years with or without hard labor, or fined not more than $5,000 or both. I think you alluded to it earlier, Duke, that, the typical, city council is normally not liable unless there is malfeasance, which is what Wes had brought up to the city council. Are you going to play that previous recording of Wes's comment?
Yeah, if Duke's got it queued up, whichever show that is. Duke, I've got, I think, the 3 shows that you wanted queued up. Just need to let me know what time stamp to go to.
Oh, I'm not sure. No, I don't have that comment that y'all are talking. I don't have that ready to go. I have a comment from Vince, and I have y'all caught me off guard here.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm
that's
sorry,
okay.
I didn't mean. I thought you did have the one where Wes gave the city council a good warning that, deliberate actions to violate their city charter could result in malfeasance in office. So they were directly warned. I know I mentioned it in one of the meetings as well. So,
Yeah,
so the city council knows that they have some liability in addition to the typical $500 that you could be maybe liable.
yeah. So what is going to have to happen is as we progress through this forward, an elector or countless electors, that means city residents of the city of Bossier, you're going to have to file complaints with the district attorney. And the district attorney, because he's not going to do it on his own, but you're going to have to file a complaint that you believe that the elected officials of Bossier City committed malfeasance. And, you can cite the Second Circuit Court, opinion. You can cite the fact that they didn't bring, the people's petition or put it to a vote of the people. They broke the city charter. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of lawyers that would be willing to help you put that together, that complaint, real fast. And the district attorney shouldn't have any problem in accepting your complaint and helping you to form it. Because again, like I said, I don't think he touches it with a 10-foot pole. I think he taps out and sends it to the state AG. But either way, citizens of Bossier, now's your time.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to file a complaint. That's what's got to happen to get this ball rolling.
I can't disagree with that, and I may stand in line at the complaint department as well. So we'll be sharing more information about how to do that process on Bossier Watch 2 in the upcoming days, I'm sure. So here's the question I've got though. So the city has signaled before that they were willing to take this to the Louisiana Supreme Court. Now, we mentioned it briefly earlier. I think you did, Duke. What are our thoughts on how that might happen or how that might come down?
Well, I don't think the Louisiana Supreme Court, I don't think they take it. If there was some kind of dissension amongst the 3 judges on this, if there was a little bit of wiggle room there, maybe so. But by my observation, there was no dissent. I mean, this was clear cut. Is that what you saw, David?
Yeah, listen, I definitely agree with that. Anybody and any judge who reads the 2 rulings, the Judge Self's ruling, and the fact that these 3 judges have now just agreed with everything that he said. They basically have minimized every argument that the city's attorney has made. I think that they're making fools of themselves. They're wasting the city's money by appealing. We didn't get to the very last line of this, but they charged the city for the attorney fees to file to the appellate court. So these are all strong points in the favor of the people. I think the other option that we ought to consider, we just need to discuss it. We could perhaps do one of the online petition ideas where we could draft something and get a lot of people in Bossier City that are citizens to put their names and addresses on it.
Good
And
idea.
that might be a better route to go to make it easier for people and for us to get it out. You know we have experience from this where we had the first letter that we did to the bond commission where we got almost 100 signatures in a day and a half. So we can get hundreds of signatures of Bossier City voters to put that forward. That's just an idea to throw out there to you guys.
That's actually a very excellent idea that I hadn't
Very good
considered yet.
idea.
All right,
Yeah.
so we've had a couple of comments about the bond commission. Who wants to give their opinion on the egg on the faces of many of the bond commissioners?
Well, I think let's
Oh,
combine the two. Let's combine the two.
well, I
We
definitely want
know,
in on this.
we
Yeah,
know from the bond commission that one or both or three, however many, some of our elected officials may have been involved in the bond commission decision.
yes, the
We
plot
need
thickens.
our local elected officials to own up to their responsibilities because they basically contributed to the efforts of getting something on the ballot that was done to obfuscate what we, the people, have done through a petition.
Now,
So,
let me jump in here, Colonel, because you keep saying elected officials, and let's be clear here. We're talking about our legislators. We're talking about our representatives and our senators because it was alleged in the bond commission meeting that our delegation was in support of the charter commission term limits, you know, position. You know, so when we left there were some, there were some legislators that said they stepped up and they were proactive to say that's not accurate. We didn't say that. And that the legislator, and I'll tell you who it is, Senator Rick Edmonds. And Rick Edmonds, if you're hearing, you better be ready because we're coming. And, he spoke up and said that it's our legislative delegation that was pushing it. And Richard Ray, I don't remember exactly what Richard Ray's words were, but Richard Ray more or less said, yeah, that's right. So for all of you, I think it's important that we know on the record, in writing from our legislators, that would be, uh, you know, Krispy Kreme Cruz. We need to know. Were you behind the scenes working against the people's petition and fighting for, the possible malfeasance in Bossier City so that they could get through their deal and fight the people in Bossier? We need to know if that was you. Were you on that? Um, you know, Senator Bass, we need to know, what your position was. Dodie Horton, we need to know what your position was. Who am I missing here? Alan Seaball, he's got a part of Bossier, right? Well, not, is it part of his in Bossier City? Well, if he
Well,
does,
let's
we need
put
to
it
know
this
his
way.
position as well too.
He is
All
definitely
of
a
them.
part. He is definitely a part of Bossier politics. Let's put it that way. And Dodie herself was at that meeting. Now, what she said and whatever when she walked over, I forget which commissioner she was talking to, but Dodie was actually at the meeting. Now, Seabass wasn't there, and Seabiscuit wasn't there.
Well, wait a minute. Now, I do know a couple of the legislators that I just said, they have personally made statements to me. But that's to me personally. I'm not going to speak for them. I think they need to put something on the record.
I
I
agree.
think
well, Duke,
each one of them.
I want to go beyond that one more point. There were some reckless statements when you go back and listen to the bond commission statements by Richard Ray. This has been a repetitive um, problem, I think, with things that Richard Ray has said. If you remember during the bond commission meeting, he said that the mayor didn't care if it was the other version of term limits or the one that the people's petition had. We have never heard the mayor say anything but that he wants the people's petition to go forward. So I think that all of our public officials need to say whether they support retroactive term limits because that is what's going to change Bossier City.
Well,
Without retroactive term limits and keeping the same guys that have been running forever, not only may you be voting for somebody who could be convicted of a felony, but you're voting for somebody that may or may not be saying what is true in public. So we need to hear from everybody. What do they support? Do they really feel like that it's needed for term limits that are retroactive? Because we know what the people want. The people want change. And
I
we didn't
agree.
hear that from Richard Ray. And I think that there's another thing about this. You know, Richard Ray has accused people of things in meetings. There's a lot of reckless information coming out of the attorney's office in Bossier City. And Richard Ray needs to be held accountable for some of the things he's been saying in public.
Well, I agree. And look, I've had my issues with Tommy, but the one thing that I agree with Tommy Chandler on as mayor is that he has supported term limits. He was there the very first petition. He was one of the first signatures to sign it that day we had the trailer and the big banner out there in front of City Hall. So here's the deal, Tommy. Your assistant city attorney, Richard Ray, alluded to the fact, well, he didn't allude to it, he said it, that you wouldn't mind either one. Which way is it, Tommy? You're either for us or you're not. Which one is it, Tommy Chandler?
Well, it's my opinion that Richard Ray choreographed all of it. I think that Richard Ray was the architect of getting the charter commission stuff. In fact, I mean, I've got it queued up, the 10-10-24, let's take a walk down memory lane. The 10-10-24, if y'all remember right, special meeting called, and I can we don't have to show the video, but we can articulate it.
Give me the timestamp and I've got it. Can get it.
It's the second one in the link.
The one where Richard Ray addresses the time, or Hammonds makes the motion. In other words, I've got the video queued up. What's the timestamp in the video?
Yeah. The point being that Richard Ray, this was when Richard Ray suddenly, it was the 12:59 mark. Richard Ray suddenly, rushing, and there's Judas Jeter and Vicky Whitman and all of them on the front row. They were rushing at light speed to get this to the bond commission, so that they could try to get it on the ballot before potentially our case came out of the Second Circuit. And Richard knew all of this. That's why I say, when I say conspiracy, all of these things were all happening and working together. There's no other. Getting Preston pulled out, and mysteriously all of a sudden there's this, it's suddenly discovered from the beginning that he can't be in the position that he was in, and it only happened once term limits, and the term limits that the people proposed, was brought forward and passed in that charter commission. Then they played that card to take control with known people who would vote one way, that would be against retroactivity, and it was all choreographed. And I think Richard choreographed all of it.
Well, yeah.
Well, dude, the further evidence there. Let me one thing.
Sure.
The further evidence there, when you go back to the meeting where the meeting that became a non-meeting, where Richard Ray got into huge arguments with Preston Friedley, and I don't know how many lies you counted, 15 or 20, that came out of Richard Ray's mouth that were attacks on Preston Friedley to basically cause that whole debacle. So I think that I mean, I believe that it was extortion to push Preston Friedley out of the great job that he was trying to do. He was trying to be fair to both sides throughout that whole process, because there were a lot of things that I wanted to have changed in Bossier City's charter that they didn't bring up and discuss. He was trying to be fair to both sides, but I think the end product there was not a good product for the city.
Yeah, and what I was going to say is, let's not forget I think it was the last bond commission meeting. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, it was Angelique Friel from the AG's office that was kind of chastising Richard Ray for being in such a hurry to get this done. You know, I mean, she ended up siding and voting to put it on the ballot, but she certainly had some qualms about him being in such a hurry. I'm pretty sure it was Angelique that had that. All right, so we can, of course, rehash the term limits saga and drama over the last couple of years because let's not forget there were two petitions. Um, but I think it maybe we would be better served, and everybody watching would be better served to kind of, even though we may not have a formal plan going forward, to indicate what everybody can do. So the way I see it, this couldn't have been any better timing. Honestly, I'm kind of glad the ruling didn't come out till now. The only way it could be any better if it was literally the day before qualifying for the city council. So maybe it's kind of a blessing in disguise that it was delayed a little bit, but I don't know. Y'all, one of you can take it, but what is the plan or going forward? I mean, where do we go from here? Now we've got this ruling.
Well,
We've been handed this golden hammer. How and when do we swing?
we start swinging immediately. The thing is complaints need to be filed. These guys need to face the consequence of committing malfeasance, allegedly. I mean, look, you've seen the definition. I mean, my opinion is they did. I think that any court of law would find that as well. But will anybody in our government, do the bidding of the people? Will the district attorney's office of Bossier, will they go after it? I have no hopes about that happening.
Well, let me interject there for a second, Duke, because we've got some basis in history for that. Because without rehashing the past, the way the whole Robert Berry case was handled, the AG's office basically had to pry their way into the case because of the way that Skylar Marvin's office, the DA's office, handled that. So we've got a little bit of history about how the DA's office likes to handle things involving shenanigans in public office around here.
But how do they get involved when the assistant city attorney, remember Charles Jacobs was gone, but the assistant city attorney, Richard Ray, is also an assistant district attorney out of that office that was down there advising all of these folks, charter commission, council members on all of this issue?
I think the first thing that, Rex, I will work with you, and I think we need to put together a online petition that we get that ball rolling that way, and that we force a Skylar Marvin decision right away. And I think not that I can understand why Skylar Marvin may have a reason to recuse himself because of the office conflict, but that will push us forward to where that we can make an argument to the Attorney General's office and try to get them involved. And I think that that's something that then we're not going to have we're not going to have a way to influence anything about the March election except to campaign against what the city has done, because we know that what they did was done to obfuscate the whole term limits issue. But there's other damage that's being done by that. So what we can do, we have to have another third leg to this stool, needs to be that we need to probably start thinking about how we're going to raise money so we can put billboards up that say that Vince Maggio, that Jeff Free, who may be running for mayor, that you've got people like who else? Jeffrey Maggio. Who else is running? Darby. You may be.
Let's let one of those address it in his own words. Rex, cue up the first link I have in the notes at the 108:01 mark, and let's just see if Mr. Maggio will follow through on his commitment to the people of his district and the people of Bossier City. I mean, he basically said what should happen, and I'm just wondering if he stands by his word.
All right, here we go.
I've been in the city my whole life. We own one of the oldest stores in Bossier, 100 years old. I ran, and I live in District 5, born in District 5, work in District 5. One day, I'm looking out the door. I said, I want to give something back to my city. That's where I ran for office. I seen this council, before these councilmen got there, the mayors was elected in our store. Look at Bossier City today. Why do you think everybody's moving here? Safety, clean, schools. That's where I ran to make it better. You know, I fight for my district. I work for my people. You know, every 4 years, it's a new term. If you don't like what I do, vote me out. If I wasn't doing my job good, I would quit. Because I love this city, I love this people.
There you go.
Right
Vince, if you're having to commit malfeasance, is that doing a good job?
Yeah.
I mean, you and your family have had a respectable name. You've had a respectable business. You've been here forever. Come on.
Yeah. Live up to what you just said right there. It's time for you to quit, Vince. Throw in the towel.
Well, and the basically you nugget down to one thing. If you're not willing to follow your charter, then you may be committing malfeasance, and it may be a chargeable offense. But you can look up there.
If is he okay with that? You know, is doing that, not following the charter and committing malfeasance, is that doing a good job to him? I mean, I'm asking all of y'all, do y'all think that your councilman not following the charter and potentially committing malfeasance, is that acceptable way for your government to run? Is that acceptable for your elected officials? Do you think that's doing a good job?
All right, let me point out Wes's comment here because this is actually kind of important. He says, new business number 7, motion to accept the resignation of criminal councilman Maggio, Free, Williams, Darby, Montgomery. Here's the deal, people. Wes is on to something right there. This is a time for potentially Chris Smith or David Hammonds to step up to the plate again, or Tommy Chandler for that matter, and try to get this on the agenda. You need to take what Wes has got right there and send an email and a text message and reach out to your city council and councilman at large and tell them you want this on the agenda.
You said David Hammonds.
Oh, well.
Who's David Hammonds?
Brian Hammonds. Sorry, Brian. I went to school with the David Hammonds. Every once in a while, I forget that Brian's name is Brian.
Yeah, so I mean, it's y'all's city. I think that the Term Limits Coalition and everybody that volunteered, everybody, you were able to see how the sausage is made in Bossier City. We've now had not one but 4 judges have gave you a glimpse into what some people view as doing a good job. Jeff Free, I mean, he thinks that they've done a great job in the way that they've just ignored the charter and turned their nose up at the people. You know, Darby, you know, and I've got one of those queued up where Darby was talking about how when the Charter Commission presented their stuff to him, and he even commented, what was the most controversial thing, smugly. He knew exactly what it was. And he's like, I never agreed with that in the first place, and I'm glad y'all came up with something that I agreed with. It's not your place of whether you agree with it or whether you don't. If the people of the city of Bossier want their rules and their laws to be one thing, the charter says they can change it how they want. Not, it's got to meet your approval first, you asshat.
And not just that, the 26 JDC agrees with it, oddly enough, and we've been on their rear ends a lot. And the Second Circuit Court of Appeals explicitly brought that up in their ruling. The charter says this, you must do it.
Well, I think, dude, there's one more thing that we haven't hashed through this very much, but in the meeting before the bond commission, one of the most salient points I thought that was made by one of the elected representatives that was on the bond commission, he said, is your city paying for this? Are you paying to fight your own people? He said that's a waste of money. And that's what Bossier City is doing right now.
Yeah.
And so I think that somebody in the city council needs to take it upon themselves to make it an issue of discussion, to maybe put an ordinance before the city that limits what they can do to fight the will of the people. And they shouldn't be able to use money to fight a valid petition that was certified by the registrar.
All right. So
So
let me point out one other thing, Duke, and maybe you were going to touch on this. One of the immediate things that needs to happen is Smith or Hammonds or the mayor needs to get the people's petition back on the agenda again and force a vote immediately.
no, they need to call for a special meeting, and all those jack wagons, look, they're under an order to not oppose and to get this going to a vote. If Smith and Hammonds or even Mayor Chandler, you call for a special meeting to get this done and let these, what's that word, calcitrants, somebody use that or whatever.
Recalcitrant.
Recalcitrant
Recalcitrant 5.
Yeah, let them say, no, we won't call a special meeting. Because you know why? They damn sure had no problem calling a special meeting to race to get the Charter Commission stuff done, term limits versions done. Why would they not have a special meeting to get this done? You're under a freaking court order. And by doing that, they're showing that, hey, you know what? We still are snubbing our nose at the judiciary.
Yeah,
Well, they may have to do that to avoid being held in contempt. So it seems like they're going to have to call an emergency meeting because they're not due for another meeting for another 6 or 7, no, 8, 9 days. So that because we have a right, Cassie Mae Rogers has a right to file to hold them in contempt if they don't take action.
Agreed. The clock's ticking, recalcitrant 5.
Yeah, and just so y'all all know, I mean, and everybody that's hearing all of this and you're getting the talking points that we're talking about, y'all need to actively share, your understanding out with the public, and you need to tell everybody in Bossier City, the voters, because here's the thing. Vince Maggio is planning on running. You've got Jeff Free gearing up. Jeff Free thinks he's going to run and become an at-large councilman. I think Jeff Free's wanting to take Vince Maggio is wanting to try to run for mayor against Tommy. These guys all, with potentially being a felon.
Yeah.
If the malfeasance charges go through, if somebody in government has a backbone to stand with the people and hold these guys accountable. At one time, I'm going to say this. At one time, all of these people were friends of mine. And at one time, I looked up to all these people and I respected all these people. And I think that one time they had respect for themselves. But it's clear to me they have lost their respect for the public. They've lost respect for themselves. And, the best thing that they could do for the city and for themselves and for their integrity is to, you need to walk away. You have screwed the pooch here. It's abundantly clear to the public. The judges, not one, but multiple judges, they see it. How much deeper of a hole are you going to dig on behalf of somebody else that got you into this? How much deeper are you going to dig that hole? I mean, we're not stopping. We're coming on.
There's over 80 people watching now. By tomorrow, next couple of days, this will probably be at several thousand views. If each person, or even if a percentage of people that view this over the course of the next couple of days I wouldn't do it with just a phone call. I would do it with text message, something that you've got documentation. Email is even better. Email all the city councilmen, even the ones that are not in your district, because the fact of the matter is they don't only represent, even the District 1, District 2, District 3 candidates, they don't just represent the people of their district. They technically represent everybody in the city. They're paid with all of our city tax dollars. If you send
I'm
an
going to
email
make
to
one
them,
more.
well, hold on, let me finish.
Let me make one more recommendation, Duke and Rex.
Well, let me
before
finish my
you.
recommendation first because I've
Oh,
got the mute
sorry.
button. So, so if each and every one of you will send an email to your city councilman and all of the city, it may as well carbon copy all of them, and let them know they need to put term limits on the agenda immediately and call for a special meeting. All right, Colonel, go ahead.
Just one more recommendation. I say this all the time. Like and subscribe to your program. We need to get the most distribution that we can get. The other thing is when you share this out, put your comments that you're going to make to Tommy or to your councilman and to all the councilmen, put that as a comment in the comments below this. So when you go to YouTube, write that comment on there. If you comment before you share it, more people are going to hear what you're saying. And it just we already have a great group of people that that share your program, and you get a lot of views on this stuff. But let's get your ideas out. So the more we get like and share with all this stuff, that it's going to make a big difference. And this needs to rise to a crescendo.
I agree. Well
Well,
stated.
it looks like, and in the comments, there's been multiple people say that KTBS is misrepresenting what exactly is the case, almost as if they're representing that the term limit stuff that's going to be in the ballot in March is the people's petition and or the retro. And so I would also advise people to beware of KTBS. It would appear that they can't seem to get the story straight. And if anyone wants to recommend them to call any of us to get the real story, but it's my understand they have a political axe to grind and they want to help the other side, and that's fine. If the other side's got their media and KTBS is wanting to fill that role, you, the public, you just should know what KTBS is doing. And if KTBS wants the right story, by all means, reach out and we'll help you get the right story.
Yeah, so I want to, Miss Jerry put up a question or a comment. She said, can parish citizens send emails? Can we address Louisiana legislatures as parish citizens? Absolutely, Miss Jerry. Here's what you have to remember. You're still a tax-paying citizen. You spend money in the city of Bossier. You spend sales tax money in the city of Bossier. Absolutely, you can send those emails. Not a problem. Just remember, any emails you send are subject to public record, but that's okay. All right.
Yep. So that's it. Public,
That's it for now.
y'all know what to do.
Yeah.
It's time to turn the page. It's time to get a hop in your step. I mean, we know what's ahead of us. We know what we have to do, and the main thing is about informing voters. People are fixing to start qualifying for office, and a lot of them are potentially going to be felons. And you need to make sure everybody knows it.
I would tend to agree. Mr. David Crockett, we appreciate all that you do and your commentary as well, and your commentary at the city council meetings. We're in rarefied air with you on the show because you have literally been escorted out of a meeting, and I am still jealous about that.
Well, it was. I kind of thought that David Montgomery was going to get me thrown out, but that's okay.
All right. Look, folks,
Hey,
y'all, go ahead, dude.
Who wants to lay odds of how many people get thrown out of the next council meeting, whether it's special or regular?
Yeah, look, we should make it a thing trying to get kicked out.
The insurance policy for not getting people thrown out is for Wes Marriott to be there because he has a First Amendment lawsuit, and they kind of act differently when Wes is around.
Yeah. All right. So let me remind everybody, stay tuned. If you haven't already, make sure and also like and follow the Bossier term limits page. We're going to be putting information, of course, out here on Bossier Watch. We're also going to be putting out some information on the Bossier term limits. We're probably going to be doing some videos, maybe some live sessions under the Bossier term limits banner. We are nowhere near finished with this project, even when we get the term limits on the ballot.
Additionally, Rex, in the morning, I would encourage everybody to listen to 710 Keel. I think around the 7:40, 7 o'clock, 7:40 mark, Wes is going to be on 710 Keel talking to Robert and Aaron, and they're going to be breaking down the recalcitrants and the possible malfeasance, and whether we're going to have felons running for office for mayor and at large councilmen. Just y'all tune into that one as well.
And don't forget, tomorrow night, we're going to be doing a Louisiana Watch, which will be published on Bossier Watch as well. I think we're going to have, is Lewis coming on the show tomorrow night?
Yeah, American Ground, Louis Avalone and Stephen Parr are supposed to join us, and we're going to talk a little bit of state politics and a little bit about the Republican Party being against election integrity. Can you imagine that? Republicans against election integrity? That almost seems like malfeasance to me. But anyway.
Well, those professional guys get to meet us amateur guys. That'll be an interesting clash. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, right. Wes will be on Keel in the morning, 7:40, Jerry.
Yeah, everybody listen to it. Stay tuned. Look for the notification for us tomorrow night, Colonel Crockett. We appreciate, again, everything you do and your commentary. Folks, we appreciate all of y'all watching. Share, tag your councilman, do all that kind of stuff. Let them know we're coming for them. See y'all later.
Good show. Thank you.